Let's call this meeting of the Operations Committee to order. If we could stand for the pledge, we have a flag out on board docks. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item is approval of the agenda. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second it.
And no discussion. That's 3-0, Robin.
All right, I'll just go ahead and vote for you all since it's only 3 of you.
Oh,
If that's okay.
sure.
Okay.
All right. We have no public comments. Approval of the March 11th committee meeting minutes. This will test our memory.
I'll put them up on the screen. Do you all need them on the screen?
Well, I'm looking at board docs, so I don't need them, but
Yeah, I don't either.
no motion.
So moved. So second it.
Okay. It'll be 3-0, Robin.
Got it.
Okay. Next item is review of the committee scope. That is out on board docs. And I think the task is to review this in light of coherent governance and make sure it still fits.
Are we raising hands or do we just wave?
You could just wave. There's only 3 of us, John.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yesterday, I observed the academics committee meeting. And the bottom line for them was they're going to report to the board that they cannot review their scope until the policies and performance expectations are all aligned and properly set up according to coherent governance. That was after an hour's discussion. I understand where they're coming from on that. And I think it might be worth us considering to follow that same tact. There's a lot of open issues for PEs and ARs. Some departments are switching around. For instance, IT, I don't know if it would be a part of finance anymore. It may get go over to the operations committee. Who knows? So I think in light of all the questions that are open, I would favor echoing Tricia Friedrich in her report that's going to say she can't do.
Okay, Will?
I do understand what Mr. Dowling is saying. However, I think until we get there, we still have to have some type of tool to measure meetings and things that are taking place inside of meetings. I mean, I gradually get it, but so John, are you stating that basically we stop meeting until then, or
No, I'm suggesting that we keep the scope as it is and say that we cannot review the scope until more is finalized around coherent governance. So nothing, in other words, business as usual, nothing changes.
Okay. Well, I guess I don't really have I guess I don't have a problem with that.
Does that mean you agree?
Yeah. What's your feeling on it?
I think that makes sense because we're still operating under the old policies.
Right.
And, you know, I think eventually we will be able to change the scope. As you all probably know, you know, I think our scope should be whatever is assigned to us by the board through policy or direct assignment, and
right,
short and sweet. But right now we're still under the old policy. I think John's point is a good point.
David, Kathy's hand's up.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I see that. Okay. Kathy? You're muted, Kathy.
I'll mute her.
So what John's correct, the academic committee is not bringing forward a change in scope, but the action of our work from this point forward is going to be to review the PEs to see how they, how they fit, so that we're going to be reviewing the PEs and a work plan. But so our work is to review the PEs that are in existence and also talk about if there are any additional ones that would need to be handed. So that's just a clarification as to what we decided to do. We're not going to submit a new scope, but that's the work that we feel needs to be done first.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
John's raising his hand.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I think it's important that we remember that the PEs are going to be changed, even though they're going to be old PEs, but they're going to change. And it's cart before the horse if we try to line up the PEs before the policy is done, because a PE has to arrive from a policy. So I'm not being critical of what the academic committee's approach is, but I think from our approach, we should just continue. David, you're right. We're operating under old policies, current policies, I should say. And the PEs, until the policy changes, will be the same as they have been.
And our current
Do
policy
you want a
says,
motion? Do you want a motion?
that would be best, I guess.
Okay, I move that the operations committee report to the full board that pending full implementation of coherent governance, the operations committee will not be changing its scope.
So you move that the operations committee report to the full board that you're not changing the scope at this time?
Yeah, right. Okay.
Seconded.
Okay. Any more discussion? All right. That'll be 3-0, Robin.
Got it.
Okay. Our next item is PE 10. With that, is that gonna be Robert or Wendy? Who's gonna do that?
That's Wendy, ain't it?
Wendy.
Yes, I thought.
Am I unmuted now, Robin?
Yes, we
you're-
can hear
Can you
you.
hear me? Okay.
We can-
Oh,
can hear
can
you.
you please put PE 10 up?
I sure am.
Thank you. Mr. Grissom and I met to update this document for the board, and we reviewed it with Dr. Rodriguez yesterday. And everything, as you know, is at a standstill now because of COVID-19. But before COVID-19, he was working diligently to ensure that the training and the drills were all done properly. And Robin, if you can go forward, I want to show the committee members something new that he did that I wanted you all to be aware of. So
What,
the first
what
part,
page?
it's going to be at the end, but we can just scroll through. He's, he is currently continue with the emergency management plan and all, but keep going forward. And then
You have to talk into your computer.
I'm sorry. Okay, y'all, I'm going to get used to this. I'm able to do it. Okay, please move down the screen, Robin. Right. Okay, he has done his shooter drills. He is been doing readiness audits. He has been doing his security checklist. Now, what I wanted y'all to see is on January 6th, he did the craze, that training at the school district, and he's done an outline for you of what that training consisted of. Okay, now go to the next page.
That's the last page.
Okay, so at the last page, all right. So go up a little more. This is what he did. It was at Beaufort High, and he went in there and he went into Beaufort High with the team, and has listed in there everything that they did to help prepare. And even though I did not participate in the one at Beaufort High, I've actually participated in one of these trainings, and it really helps to practice what you would do in the event that we had an active shooter on our premises, because you actually go into a place to secure a room, to protect yourself, and as a teacher and your students, and you go through you really feel like you're in a drill, the way that they work out, and the police are there to help you. And you did hear the blank firing pistol. It seemed, it did seem real. So I think it was a very good training. And so he added that for everybody to see. That was an excellent training. I don't know if any of you all have done it, but you are more than welcome if you want to participate in a CRACE training. Mr. Grissom welcomes any of the board members to be there. I hope it never happens in our district, but we need to be prepared. And I know that this kind of training is done in military installations to prepare in the event, there's an incident. So we need to be prepared here.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you. And if you had any questions for Mr. Grissom, I asked him to be available. Robin could call him if there's anything you'd like to ask him.
Okay, Mr. Smith?
Actually, Mr. Dowling, I have a question. I was writing mine down. You can go ahead, Mr. Dowling.
Okay, go ahead, John.
Wendy, is this for all grade levels?
They do it for all the schools. Mhm.
Okay. I hear from
Right,
a
and
lot.
John, why don't we get Mr. Grissom on the line too?
I think you better.
You
Well,
should. I want to make sure because he's the director of security, so I want to be respectful, to his position and all.
Hold on, please. Is he expecting me to call him, or is he going to Zoom in?
I asked him to be available to Zoom in, but I think we should call him and tell him to Zoom in, which I can. If you want to send him a Zoom invite, I'll call him. I can call him on this. I can call him on this phone. I have him. Oh, he says, I don't have any connection to Zoom. I don't have any connection. Okay. And he's saying,
Molly would need to send him an invite.
yeah.
So she can
Let me
send
read this message to you all. He said, the most important thing you can tell the committee is that we met all state standards even though we closed over 2 months early, we have met and exceeded all state requirements.
But John has some questions, I think.
Yeah, so hold on, let's see if we can get him.
Well, I can ask the questions and we can postpone approval of this until we get
no.
answers. If
Oh,
you
no,
all
we-
agree that let me finish, please.
Yes, sir.
If the whole committee agrees that the questions are valid and need answers before we approve it, we can always table it until the next meeting.
Yes, sir, but,
Yeah.
yeah, but Mr. Dowling, with all due respect, sir, I want to make sure that we do these things on time for the board, and it's due in May, and I want to make sure we're on time, so I can get him.
Well, you might get it without a recommendation then.
Well, we can get Mr. Grissom right on the phone. Hey, the board members have some questions, so I'm going to put you up to the microphone. Y'all go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, Dave, Mr. Grissom, I get a lot of questions from constituents from all districts about why it's necessary to have a blank firing pistol using in elementary schools. Parents tell me that, let me finish, please. Parents are telling me that children come home frightened. I'm disturbed by the final sentence that says we will have Bluffton Fire paramedic on scene with us for any medical issues that might arise. If we're giving training that might cause medical issues, I think that I'm concerned that we might be overdoing it a little bit. So I will vote no today on recommending this if that paragraph is going to remain in it.
Well, it's more than that paragraph. It's that that's done.
Wendy,
David Grissom would like to be zoomed in, please.
Molly emailed him the link and gave him the telephone number, so she's already texted him and emailed him.
They texted and emailed you the link. They texted and emailed the link. All you got to do is click on Zoom and get in there. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Mr. Dowling, could you tell us what schools you received those concerns from so we can address those properly?
They're from all over. Bluffton Middle, Bluffton Elementary, Hilton Head Elementary, Hilton Head Middle, all over the place. I think it's not a pocket of resistance.
No, I'm just wondering if there are particular family members that we need to address this with and talk to them and get their feedback.
It's my concern. I'm getting enough feedback that I have a concern about it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just saying that we always want to address concerns that our parents have regarding their students. We want to make sure we keep our students safe. So.
Yeah. Well, I always advise them to contact the district office, but I am concerned about almost the expectation that there may be medical issues. And the other thing that I have is the wiffle ball scenario, where we have, quote, participants throw wiffle balls at him to demonstrate the effectiveness of fighting back with whatever you have available if a shooter is able to enter a classroom and point a gun at you. I am not a safety expert, but I think the best advice to give kids if someone comes in with a gun is to get out of the line of fire, not throw something at the shooter. I can't.
No, well,
to me,
that's something.
To me, that sounds silly.
Yeah, I did. I wasn't aware
Mr.
about
Dowling,
it.
it just depends. I mean, that's why it's called avoid, deny, defend. The first part of that is avoid. If you can get out, if you can avoid the the shooter or the problem, yes, that's your best option. You either run away, get gone. But if you don't have that option, if somebody corners somebody into a corner, you have no alternative but to fight back. So avoid if you can, but if you have to fight back, you have to fight back. Make sense or no?
I see your point. I question whether that's useful advice to a 7-year-old kid.
No, it's tough. I know it's a complicated conversation to have with little kids. It's even a tough topic to talk about with 30-year-old teachers in elementary schools. You know, they're not used to being taught to fight back. But I would rather have them at least have that in the back of their mind or in their toolbox to do something instead of doing nothing.
Okay.
For
Well,
a good example is what happened in, some of these past shootings we had. The one in Sandy Hook, where all those kids and the teacher were in a closet. They didn't try to fight back. Now, could have been the same result. They were pinned in a corner. If they had to come out and done something, who knows whose life may have been saved? We'll never know. But again, it's just something in their tool bag to do something. But again, we teach avoid first. Avoid if you possibly can. Deny is to put locked doors and keep something between you guys. Defend is the third choice. Do something. Just don't take a ball.
Okay. All right.
You're right. It's a tough conversation to have with anybody.
Okay. Can you talk about the blank firing pistol?
Yes, sure. Yeah, that's training that's becoming more and more popular throughout the state. We've done it twice now. Just so you know, the plan for the coming year, 2021, our 2021 school season, we were not doing this plan here for the entire district again. We were only going to do it for new employees, maybe a 200 total or whatever it's going to be, 100 district-wide. The rest of the group, all the teachers and all the other employees are going to watch videos, reminders to some of this stuff. So this is not going to be a yearly thing. The plan is to do it every 3 years. That's the plan we've kind of worked out with law enforcement and SLED and the state and best practice scenarios.
Is our children exposed to the firing of that pistol?
No, there are no kids in the building whatsoever. In fact, we make an announcement and the schools are empty completely of any students. We have law enforcement outside to keep anybody from coming to doors. This is just staff and employees only.
Well, that answers my question. Now, one last question for you.
Sure.
We will have Bluffton Fire paramedic on scene with us for any medical issues that might arise. What about this training gives cause for concern about medical issues arising?
The only thing we've had in the past, again, we've done this twice now, is when they do the barricade, and it's a good thing, bad thing. They get real serious about it and take the training seriously. So they do the barricade, and they've gone crazy. One time we had a table fall over on a teacher and hurt her foot. But besides that, nothing's happened. It's just precautionary. Anytime law enforcement does their own training, when they do SWAT training in our schools or any other case, it's kind of their policy. It's no different than at a football game or a basketball game. We have paramedics standing by just in case. Same type of thing.
Thank you.
All right.
Sure. I'll stay on in case you guys get other questions.
Will, you got anything?
Well, yeah. I was just listening to the conversation between you and Mr. Darling. However, who has a cell phone that is? Do you mind either turning your cell phone on mute or attending to that because it's just ping, ping, ping?
I don't know.
Well, whoever phone that is, would you please deal with that? Thank you. Now, some of my concerns are some of the same concerns as Mr. Darling's, but what really also concerns me is I see something about the canine searches. How regular are we doing these canine searches?
What I require is the high school and middle school each are required to do 2 per year on the inside. one first half of the year, one second half of the year. In addition to that, the high schools do one in the parking lot. Now, some schools in the past, like Hilton had, they've done as many as 5 or 6 per year. I only require 2. And there is no state requirement for any. That's just something that we do, most districts do on their own. But there is no state requirement for any of those.
And I'm asking that too as well, because if we're testing students for drugs, how regularly do we do drug tests, random drug tests?
How often are we doing the drug testing?
Yes, sir.
You know what, that's kind of Robert Outing's area of his arena. He does that with the athletics and
Okay.
that's all scheduled through them. I don't deal with that.
That's not part of this PE though.
No.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering. I'm wondering that. I mean, so that can't be discussed. What question can't be asked?
No, that's not really on our agenda.
Okay. No problem. So you said that you do 2 or 3 random drug tests. I mean, excuse me, 2 or 3 random dog searches. Because
Yes,
it's been brought to my attention that some of our schools do have kids that are setting up selling drugs in there, and that's a great concern for that. And please don't ask me to specify which school, who it came from. I'm not doing any of that. That's
fine. I didn't hear your concern. Can you do me a favor, repeat your concern, Will, so I can address it for you?
I said I've had concerns from parents that have told me that some of our schools are basically drug infested, and that's a concern of mine.
Right, keep in mind that the drugs that we use for the canine, they are trained for marijuana. They are not trained for kids who are popping pills or any of the other drugs you can possibly think of. These are marijuana trained dogs. So I'm not saying that that marijuana is not a problem. It is a problem, but that's all the dogs are trained for at this problem to do the canine searches. In other words, if a kid is selling pills, prescription pills in our school, we have no way of sniffing that out with any dog. The dogs aren't trained for that.
And how often are we required to do drills, state drills, earthquakes and tornado drills? How often are we required to do that for the state? Or are we required to do that for the state?
Which drills are you talking about, Will? I'm sorry.
Tornado drills and earthquake drills.
Those are once a year. Those are mandated once a year with the state, and we actually have a date every year the state sets aside. And we've had 100% cooperation with all of our schools every time we do those drills.
And we only do every school once a year?
Correct, for the earthquake and for tornado, correct.
I think it needs to be more than once a year.
You're requesting that I do more than once a year for which specific one? You mean tornadoes?
I mean, but both of them. I mean, because both of them are both of them have been happening more often in South Carolina. So that's to me that brings me some concerns.
Okay.
I mean, right here on Williams Island, we had a tornado touchdown here recently.
Right. All I can say to that is I know the state is revamping their requirements. They're trying to change the one fire drill per month that we do now and make it every month is a different training month to do whatever we feel is necessary. In other words, we could have 1 month do a lockdown, 1 month do a tornado drill, 1 month do a fire drill, 1 month do an earthquake drill, 1 month again do another tornado drill. But that hasn't been done by the state yet. They're getting some pushback by the fire commission. So we're waiting to see what happens with that. But as far as adding a tornado drill or an earthquake drill, I can certainly get with Dr. Rodriguez and see what he wants me to do or implement. That's not a problem.
And when
remember, Will, remember, this is a report on what was done last year.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But some of your questions, I think, should probably come up when we talk about the operational expectations for next year, or the PE for next year.
Got you. Okay. Got you.
Thank
Okay. Okay. I got you. All right. Well. Okay. Well. Yeah. So basically, we just accepting this report.
Yeah, if we have a motion to do that,
Can I ask you a question?
yes.
Okay. So Mr. Dowling, who just left the screen, said that he got multiple complaints from parents of young students, elementary schools and middle schools throughout Bluffton and Hilton Head, that they were having, I think he's used the term nightmares, or very scared from having this craze training with simulated gunfire. But Mr. Grissom just told us there are no students in this craze training with simulated gunfire. What on earth is Mr. Dowling talking about? And maybe Mr. Grissom can answer that. What would these children have experienced in our school system with simulated gunfire?
Absolutely nothing. There's been no simulated gunfire whatsoever in any of my schools with any kids present. The only thing that I could possibly think he could be talking about is our mandatory lockdowns that are required by the state to do. So that's all I can think of. I mean, I don't know what else he'd be talking about.
Well, he left the screen, so.
Yeah, but again, I can assure you there are none whatsoever blank fire with any kids present anywhere on our campus, whether it be inside the school or out in the playground. Nothing.
Well, thank you, Mr. Grissom, for clarifying that, because this is a public meeting and that is not what Mr. Dowling said.
Okay, yeah, that is not the case. We do not do that.
Mr. Grissom, can you go over the mandatory lockdown and what happens?
Okay, we do lockdowns for every school, and we normally have anywhere between 2 and as many as 5 or 6 law enforcement officers that go with me inside the schools. We give them an access key. They actually go into every single classroom. Once the lockdown is called, they actually go in and talk to the kids, talk to the parents, whether it be kindergarten kids or high school kids. They evaluate every single classroom along with me, and we give feedback to all the kids in the classroom. It normally lasts, upwards of half an hour, maybe 35, 40 minutes at the most on the bigger schools.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the smaller schools, we get through the entire school within, 15, 20 minutes.
Mr. Smith?
I was going to say, Mr. Dowling.
Yes, William.
Dr. Guaj had a question for you that you may want to weigh in on.
So John, you just now while you were away from the screen, and you had said during your comments in this meeting that you had had multiple complaints from parents of young children in elementary schools and middle schools throughout Bluffton and Hilton Head because of simulated gunfire. Mr. Grissom has just confirmed that there are no children in the schools during this craze training with simulated gunfire, and there is no practice drill with simulated gunfire with children. So I don't know what you're referencing. I'd like to know what you're referencing.
I'm referencing what they told me in their communications. So apparently they were misinformed.
Okay. If you know who they are, John, you might want to get back to them and tell them.
Yes, I will research it. I keep all my emails and I will get back to them and tell them that.
Yeah, I can assure all of you, there is no live fire whatsoever with blanks of any kind of training like that at all with any kids present, high school, elementary, middle school, none, 0. None would be on campus.
Okay. Do we have a motion on this, or?
Well, so, that time you were in Beaufort High School, is that included in this report as well?
The practice of doing the safety audits after Beaufort High School, Dr. Rodriguez asked me not to do that the rest of the year until him and I sat down and reevaluate what we're doing. Keep in mind, I've done that for 7 years at every single school. I think it's a vital part of what we do. Unfortunately, there was some miscommunication with, or some parents who decided to go on social media that didn't like what we did. That's how it blew up. But it's something I've done for 7 years for every single school. But no, I've only did the Buford High School this year. I've not done anything further. There is an example there of one that I've done in the past. I do hope to do some part of that again this coming school year when with the permission of Dr. Rodriguez, and maybe go over some things and do a little bit different. We do need something along those lines for a safety audit, though.
Could you walk us through that and tell us like what was the concern of the parents? If you
To be honest with you, well, the concern of the parent was that I entered classrooms where kids were present through a window, and that absolutely didn't happen. All I do is I show up on campus. I advise law enforcement. In this case, I advised the SRO that I would be doing a perimeter check of the school, looking for unsecure windows, unsecure doors, seeing if the teachers are spotting me on the outside and notifying the administration, just reacting to me being present. So in this particular case, I did find one window that was open, where kids were present. I identified myself to the teacher and advised her that she needed to keep her door locked or her window shut. Then I found another classroom window that was completely open where nobody was present, and that is the classroom that I entered. No kids were there. Nobody saw me enter it. Nobody knew I entered it until I told them. So once I did that, I actually walked through the school to have a staff member confront me to check for my ID. I didn't have an ID on. It was in my pocket. My idea there is to make them aware that, hey, if somebody doesn't have an ID on them, you need to be asking them, hey, where's your ID? Who are you? So that was the process. It blew up because a student ran home and told mom that I entered a classroom where kids were present, and that just didn't happen. Never entered a classroom where kids were present.
Thank you.
Nor would I do that. That wouldn't be a good idea.
John? You're on mute, John.
John, you gotta unmute yourself.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. It appears the PE has been met. Questions about the quality or questions particular about the work, I think is fodder for a full board security. Next time we have a full board security briefing, I believe that the PE has met the requirements, and I move that we forward it to the board with a recommendation that it be accepted.
Seconded.
All right. That'll be 3-0, Robin. And I do have one thing to say before we leave the topic. And Mr. Grissom.
Yes, sir.
Are all of these methods you use patterned off of a standard, a national standard or a state standard?
All of what I do are state standards. I have a monthly meeting that I go to in Columbia with all my counterparts from all the school districts across the state. Sometimes the state superintendent even sits in on the meetings, and we discuss what we do, what we're trying to do as a group and as a state. So yeah, these are best practices for the state.
All right, I'm just giving you a heads up that when you come before the full board, I'm going to ask that question.
Not a problem.
All right.
Also, Mr. Grissom, quick question as well. Who do you report to exactly?
Who do I report to?
Yes, sir.
Wendy's my first line supervisor. Then after that, Dr. Rodriguez.
Okay. All
All
right.
right. Okay. Our next topic is for Chad. I think Chad's on.
Hey, you guys, stay safe in these trying times. Okay, stay safe, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mr.
Deb.
Grissom.
Thank you. Same to you.
Okay. Do we have Chad on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, super. This is yours. Naming of the stage.
Yes, sir. So this will be a surprise to the person if they happen to be watching. I doubt it. But we have one of our teachers that is retiring this year. And he has been at Battery Creek for quite some time. You see a letter on the screen that our actual department wrote on his behalf. We researched the process. We're not suggesting to rename our Performing Arts Center. Our Performing Arts Center was named for one of the former principals there, Mr. McVeigh. But Mr. Cullinan has been at Battery Creek. He's been a champion in Battery Creek for over 20 years. He is retiring this year, and we're actually suggesting that we name the stage for him, doing so in his honor and during retirement. If you understand how our PACs actually function, they're not just about our student use during the school day, but our community uses them as well for different events, churches, what have you. But you have to have a PAC manager. That's Performing Arts Center. You have to have a PAC manager to do that. So he spends countless hours working for different organizations to make sure that we can put on performances and host, because it's actually a very complicated system to use. And so he has to do the trainings. He's helped other people and other PACs train, and he's just really dedicated his entire career to Battery Creek High School. Last year, additionally, he was one of the state mentors of the year for mentoring younger teachers in his department. And he's just a fine man and a fine example of an upstanding teacher in Beaufort County School District. We took this, although we did it virtually, after our department, Fine Arts Department and our media specialist, Mr. Copeland, kind of had this idea. We researched the process, and we knew we had to present it to the committee, but we also presented it to our SIC. Our SIC unanimously supported the idea. If you're a Battery Creek person, you know Mr. Cullinan. So he's been part of this for a long time. So I understand there's going to be some questions.
Yes.
All right, John.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What policy requires us to be involved in this?
I can't remember it, John, but I know there was one because I looked it up when this first came.
The
Yeah.
one,
And we have to approve any facility management. Robert Ottig probably can tell us.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was going to
Well-
say what they are following is actually the AR, which is AR OS 28, the naming of school facilities, mascots, and colors. And part of that, so this is not the board policy, of course, this is the AR. According to the AR, of course, it says that the naming of any facilities are the sole responsibility of the board. What Chad just described that they went through goes right along with what we require for the naming of an adjunct facility as part of OS 28. So including in that is that it has to be approved by the SIC. The person has to have been an employee of the district for no less than 15 years. And then it must be taken to the board for the board's approval.
Okay. Did the board seek this responsibility out, or was it given the responsibility by this AR?
I think, and Wendy will have to chime in, but as far as I know, there's no real directive on board policy. The board was given this responsibility, as far as I'm aware, through this AR.
Okay, I thought it worked the other way around, that the board assumes responsibility. I feel like I'm in the mascot bind again, and I really suspect that we should not, particularly with the partial implementation that we have of coherent governance. This is an operation issue. I don't see why it meets the purview of the board at all, particularly since the board did not seek out the authorization and someone decided who was not on the board to give that responsibility to the board.
But that is the policy that's in effect as we speak, so.
But it's not a policy, it's an AR.
It's the AR that's in effect while we're talking, so we have to follow it.
I would say, I do see Dr. Glotz has her hand up if you're.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, OS 28, Roman numeral 5C It says requests for naming adjunct facilities will be made to the School Improvement Council of the school where the adjunct facility is located and must be endorsed by at least a 2/3 vote of the School Improvement Council before the request is presented to the board.
Yes,
And when we
that's-
have done that, we followed that process. When I first took it to Robert, he made sure that I understood the entire process. We took it to our SIC. We actually had a unanimous vote. I have electronic copies of that if I need to provide documentation. And we, as far as my guidance goes, I have to follow the ARs. So I'm following exactly what was, set forth.
Okay, I was just trying to point out that I think it's standard practice that ARs are to be derived from board policies, whether we're in traditional governance, strategic governance, or coherent governance. And apparently it was not done that this time, but I will live with it, and I hope that the policy committee either creates a policy for it or requires that the AR be changed.
Okay.
So I
Will?
move that we accept the request of Battery Creek to name the stage for and I don't have the name in front of me. Fill in the blank.
John Cullinan.
Cullinan, okay. I move that.
Do we recommend that the board approve?
That we recommend that the board approve the
Okay.
naming of the stage.
Okay. Will?
So you said that,
Do you second that before we discuss?
yeah, sure, I'll second it for discussion.
Okay. Go ahead.
Basically, you have, you've gotten faculty and staff, community members to weigh in on this as well?
They're actually the one that brought it to me. My faculty, we have a very close-knit department. And if you look at the bottom of the letter that is written, all of the members of our Fine Arts Department, minus Mr. Cullinan, have signed. Those are all 4 signatures there are employees at Battery Creek. And then the person who wrote the letter is also staff member Ryan Copeland. And so they brought this to me. And so that's where it came from. And yes, I took it to our SIC, which is comprised of multiple community members.
Right. And you said that you have that tallied with you as well?
I have the electronic emails that I can forward to whoever if need be. It's a copy of the letter, and they replied all to their responses. And so I have that if anybody needs to review it.
I was going to ask you if you don't mind, could you forward that to Mrs. Cushenberry to put in the notes in the notes for today?
Not a problem.
Okay. John? I'm sorry, Will. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, yeah. Okay, I'm right. Well, I just want to make sure that we have all our dots and I's and T's crossed, except in this. That's my question. That's it. Thank you.
Understood.
That was good. That was a good idea to attach it to the minutes. John?
No, I have nothing more to say.
Okay. We've got a motion. It was seconded.
The chair has a question. Dr. Gauze have a question.
Oh, yeah. See, I only have a partial screen, so I can't see everybody.
Go up
yeah.
to the top and you can get more pictures visible. Anyways, Chad, I just want to make it very clear to you, I wasn't doubting at all that you didn't follow the process appropriately. I just wanted to be sure that the committee here knew that what you had to bring it, it's supposed to come before the board. That's the policy right now with the AR, I should say.
That's I took it that way. I didn't take it the opposite. I understood where you. Yeah, no, I understood.
All right. Okay. Got the motion seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Will?
Aye.
You're an aye?
Yeah.
3-0. 3-0, Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I will notify, now Mr. Cullinan will know that we're trying to do this for him. So I will let him know that it's going to be voted on at Do I have a timeline of which board meeting that will be at, voted on?
It'll be at the next board meeting on the 19th.
19th.
Okay. Well, as much as I enjoy y'all's company, I will be, that's all for today for me.
All right, thank you, Chad.
Thank you, Chad.
All right, you have a good day.
Shoot. All right, next item is very colorful presentation on construction update.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, committee members. This is Rob Corbin. I'm the program manager for the bond referendum projects, and I work with CBRE here. I appreciate the opportunity to furnish this update this evening. Robin, if you'll go ahead and go to the next slide and pull up the first video for May River High School. I wanted to share with the community the progress that's being made down at our two active construction sites, May River High School and River Ridge Academy. These videos are posted to the district website so that they can go back and be viewed at any time. This first video is of May River High School. It was taken at the end of last month. You'll see activities that are going on in the background where the steel has been erected to the point that you see. The first floor rough-ins have all taken place. And if you were out there this week, you'll see two cranes actively erecting the remaining portion of the roof steel and the decking associated with that. Those activities should finish by Monday. The second floor slab has also now been completed. And as you were looking at the video pan across the screen, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing MEP rough-ins are all well underway as well. If we could let this loop through one more time, or go to the Ridge Academy, Robin, that's fine as well. Now, this video will start off by showing the progress for the 400 wing. A lot of exterior progress as well as interior progress has taken place. This building is now all dried in, which we're no longer dependent upon the weather to make progress. All of the HVAC main ductwork that you see right there has all been installed as well. This is the 600 wing. And its progress is basically tracking that of the 400. This last section right here is the 800 wing, and all the block work now is now finished, and the overhead rough-ins of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing are also well underway. All right, if we can move on to the PowerPoint while that's loading up, I will commend our construction manager, who is MB Khan, in these trying times with COVID-19. They've done an excellent job of social distancing and very closely coordinating all of the different trade contractors that are active on these construction sites. And these projects are all moving well forward, on schedule, and under budget. Slide 4 right here that we're going to go to next is a recap for May River High School. What you'll see on there is two traffic lights. We want to go ahead and clearly convey at a glance the overall status of projects, and by using traffic lights and the standard colors of green, yellow, and red, you can quickly determine that these two projects are going to be under budget and are on schedule. Recap is these are funded from the 2019 referendum.
I'm sorry, hold on.
The budgeted funding for the addition at May River High School is shown there at just over 15.6 million. Our encumbered and paid to date figures as of the 11th of May are just over 12 million, and the total paid to date on this project is $2.4 million. Moving on to the next slide, these are our 45-day major milestone activities. And as you heard me recap during the video on May River High School, our structural steel and our roof deck are scheduled to finish up by May 18th. Our CMU walls and the MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing rough-ins on the first floor will be wrapping up before the end of May. And then we'll systematically move up to the second floor to address the CMU walls up there and the MEP rough-ins. The similar level of detail is available for River Ridge Academy on the next slide. Once again, under budget, on schedule. The budgeted funds for the addition at just over 9.8 million, encumbered and paid to date just over 9 million, and our paid to date figure just over 2.6 million. Before I move on from those two active projects, I'll pause to see if there's any questions.
Yes, sir. So are all those buildings bricked in all the way around?
I couldn't understand your question. Could you repeat it, sir?
I was asking you about all those buildings that you just showed us. Are they bricked in all the way around?
Yes, sir. They'll be, you see the block construction, and then they'll get the brick facade.
But at this current time, it's not done yet, though.
No, sir. It's got to be systematically put into place. Those activities are on the horizon.
And I know this may be a possibly a rhetorical question, but I mean, but the sites are locked off at night, so no one can take supplies or it won't be endangering anyone.
Yeah.
I do see the gate on one side of one of the projects.
Yes, ever since the beginning of the construction, MBCon put up perimeter fencing to protect everybody that's on the site and prevent unauthorized entrance into the work zones. And at nighttime, the sites are fully secured down so that we don't have that concern.
Thank you.
Good.
John? Hold on, we have a question from John.
Mr. Dowling? Need to unmute.
You're muted, John. You're muted, John.
Can Molly possibly unmute him?
I think he may have just disconnected, maybe.
He disconnected
No, he's still there.
himself. Oh,
You hear me now? Can you
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay, all right. Budgeted funding is 9.8. You've encumbered 9.0. How much is left to be encumbered? I mean, you're going to come in at 9.6 or 10.2?
Well, we still have that to be determined. We do have additional items that still need to be encumbered from the remaining budgeted funds, and those activities are well underway. And once we have those dollars tied to a commitment, we'll then report those as encumbered. Items that I'm speaking of include items such as furniture, fixtures, and equipment that would come out of that remaining balance of just around $800,000 that you see reflected there, sir.
Okay. Time frame for that knowledge?
Can you do what?
Time frame for that estimate?
I apologize. I could not understand the question. I may have a problem with my connectivity.
When were you, okay, what's the time frame for knowing?
Oh, we're working on that right now. Just as soon as we can tie up those acquisitions, we can bring those back. But yeah, once again, for the project at River Ridge. That'll be the one that comes across the finish line first with a substantial completion scheduled for September 1st. The other project at May River High School, that one's not scheduled to finish until January 1st, so we have a little more time in buying out the remaining items associated with that project. But being that we're in May, we are actively tying up those remaining loose ends and acquisitions for the River Ridge project, sir.
Very good. Thank you.
You bet.
All right, let's move on.
Moving on to the summer 2020 updates. The summer 2020 projects, we do have some roofing projects. There's 4 of them there at Bluffton Elementary. It's a roof replacement. At Bluffton Middle, it's roof repairs. At Hilton Head Island, roof replacement. And at Right Choices, it's a roof replacement specific to the gym area. You do see some yellow traffic lights on that slide there. That's to, Robin, if you go back to slide 9, please. Those status flags, when we do encounter a status flag, I do want to clearly communicate what the issue is. You'll see there at the bottom of the slide that the bids that we received for those 2 projects are over budget. The overages at Right Choice is roughly $290,000, and the overage for Bluffton Elementary is roughly $138,000. We are working on our guaranteed maximum price amendments with our CMs for remaining scopes on those campuses. And our goal is, once we get those GMPs in, we'll go back and look to see where we stand overall on the budgets at these campuses and make recommendations to move these forward. One of the items I will point out is the bid result at Hilton Head Island. This is excellent news. We've already issued the amendment for Southeast Roofing Solutions, and that's on Dr. Rodriguez's desk, as I understand, to have his signature applied. But the great news about that project is the bids that came in, we are under budget by roughly $500,000 on that project there. So that's excellent news.
David.
Mr. Dowling, you got a question?
Yes. On the 290K and 138, when you're telling us about that, could you also let us know what percentage of overage that those are?
Yes, sir. I'll be glad to prepare items like that in the future, if that's acceptable.
Okay. All right, because the 138 doesn't mean anything unless we know what it's against.
Understood, sir. I'll be glad to do that going forward.
Right.
I'll put it into a perspective using not only dollars, but percentages as well.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the next slide. Once again, recapping real briefly, the district has hired 4 designers as well as 4 construction managers and created teams to do work in the district. This slide here is addressing the work that is being executed by the architectural firm of LS3P and Thompson Turner. We've got Beaufort High School with safety security improvements, technology infrastructure improvements, athletics, as well as some 8% capital project work involving the HVAC upgrades. That all is moving along well with budget. We have had a little bit of a schedule concern that we lighted up as a yellow. I'll address that at the end. At Broad River Elementary School, we're going to be doing some 8% work improvements to address the plumbing sewer repairs. At Coosaw Elementary, we'll be working on the generator replacement, which is co-funded between technology, infrastructure, and 8% funds, as well as painting the entire building interior. Over at the district headquarters, the DESC facility, we'll be doing some flooring and some technology, furniture work. At Ladies Island Middle School, we have safety security improvements, painting of the corridors. And at Mossy Oaks, we'll be doing painting of the entire building interior. Those last 2 painting projects are funded from 8%. And then at Right Choice, we'll be implementing safety security improvements, St. Helena Elementary playground improvements, and at Well Branch High School athletics. You'll see that there was a concern at the technology level. The concern there was that at the time of commencing this work, we really needed to better define the scope associated with that technology and infrastructure. And to accomplish that and overcome some of these delays, we've been holding weekly and sometimes multiple meetings during the week to convey information between the district, the designers, and the construction managers so that this information can be disseminated out. We do fully expect a scheduled recovery associated with those concerns.
I have a question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Smith.
As over at St. Helena Early Childhood Playground, which playground are y'all redoing? Or what exactly are y'all doing?
The playground improvements are those that were defined in the bond referendum. If you want a specific list of the type of equipment that's being selected and put in at that facility, I would have to obtain that level of detail and get that shared with the committee.
Yeah. Would you be able to do that for me and possibly email everyone in the committee that information?
I'll make a note of it, sir.
Thank you, because I thought that St. Helena Early Childhood Playground was already fixed already. I thought it was already redone, but thank you.
If I can add, all elementary schools and ECCs are getting turf play areas. And I believe at the ECC, and Rob can check on it, but I do believe it's a turf play area.
Okay.
Thank you, Robert.
And that's something that is something that the district is requiring to be done, or is that a request from the people who are in that building?
That was part of the package that was developed by our playground consultant that was presented to the project community. What was that? The referendum community committee. And so that was all part of that package that went forward to develop the referendum project list.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the next project. This is the team of McMillan, Pasden, Smith, and H.G. Reynolds. This is solely referendum work that's taking place at Buford Elementary School. It involves safety, security, renovations, as well as technology and infrastructure. One of the things that I do want to point out is that, we have been making great progress. The 100% construction documents, we call them CDs, excluding the IT packages for T2 through T6 have been received, and our guaranteed maximum price amendment requests are to be received this week. These are items that you'll hear me speak about at the end of this presentation and what will be going to the board next week. This is the same situation with the technology infrastructures on this campus that I addressed on the previous slide. There is no one project that was unique. This was something that required the attention and focus to be deployed against all of the referendum projects that are forthcoming. But good news is as we make our progress through these first bond referendum projects, the decisions will then be implemented quickly for those projects that follow. So there's some advantages for those projects that are in later years. The next slide, our summer work with Jumper Carter Seats, that's the architectural firm, and this is MB Khan doing improvements at Bluffton Elementary. Well, that includes safety, security, technology, infrastructure, and playgrounds. At H.E. McCracken Middle School, safety, security, technology, infrastructure, athletics, as well as some 8% capital project work that involves painting the corridors. At Hilton Head Island Elementary School, fondly in the past called IB, they'll be receiving safety, security improvements, technology, infrastructure, playgrounds, as well as some 8% capital project scope that includes HVAC upgrades, as well as painting the entire building interior. At Hilton Head Island School for Creative Arts, the scope includes safety, security improvements, technology infrastructure. 8% capital projects are the replacement of the kiln, as well as some of the stage upgrades that are needed on that campus. Robin, if you can go to the next page, this one here is for Rosenblum Cole Architectural Group and construction, or contract.
Excuse me, before you go on, can you tell me what type of stage updates that we're putting in?
Yes, sir. I believe those are associated with stage lighting.
When you get a chance, could you send that to me as well? Could you send me?
I'll make a note of it right now.
Yes, sir.
All right. Moving on to the next, that project right there is the Rosenblum Cole Architect and the contract construction. They'll be doing improvements at Well Branch Elementary School and Well Branch Middle School. For the elementary, it's safety, security, technology, infrastructure, playgrounds, and under 8% capital projects, we have HVAC replacements ongoing. At Well Branch Middle School, it's safety, security, technology, infrastructure, athletics, and under 8% capital projects. We're doing some window improvements, painting the corridors, as well as HVAC upgrades and replacements. We do anticipate that when we get the final GMP at Well Branch Middle School, you'll see that the HVAC upgrade replacement has a yellow light on it as well. All the signs there indicating that the budget will only allow a partial upgrade and replacement of that HVAC equipment. But we've been working with the designers and the contractors in the district to identify which of those units are the most in need of replacement so that they can be addressed systematically. And I'm also working with Robert Otting so that as we look to future years and the opportunity for obtaining some additional 8% capital funds to address the remaining HVAC improvements that will be needed on that campus.
Okay, before you go to the next slide, on the traffic lights, what constitutes a red light?
A red light is one of those critical situations that I will do everything within my power to avoid, sir. My goal is always to be able to give information anytime something wavers off of green, because green is good. And yellow, I'm always looking for a recovery plan. And I like to step in and address those situations in a timely manner so that they won't turn red. In the unlikely event that I do have to report a red light would be one of those critical situations where we would not be able to meet the commitments of delivering a project per the schedule, or that it would require a commitment of significant additional funds to execute that scope, sir.
Okay. So if it's on the critical path and it misses a milestone, that makes it a red light?
No, sir. Once again, we take a closer look. If we end up with a critical path item that has been missed, we do review the construction schedules that are generated by this construction managers and updated on a monthly basis. We do look aheads. We anticipate so that we can manage those activities. If one slips, we work closely with the construction manager, his subcontractors, and his scheduler, and often we can find creative ways to reschedule some of those activities so that we can remove the fact that that could have been on a critical path, but it's not necessarily needed to be. We're very resourceful when it comes to finding ways to still achieve the deliverable dates as well as staying within budget.
Right. I got that. Okay. I just don't want to, almost all tasks are on schedule until the final 2 weeks. And I just don't want us to get surprised.
I will not do that to you, sir.
Yeah, you've been in the field long enough to know that. So
yes, sir. And we can manage what we know about. We can't manage surprises. So I share your philosophy.
All
right. Spend a little bit of time on community outreach and the district website updates. Since last time we met, we have been making a lot of good progress. We do have some additional information that's out on the district website if you hadn't had a chance to visit it I do encourage those that are listening to go visit that. We have added a new web link for the MWBE and local vendor outreach. Those vendors and local firms that are interested in performing services, this is an opportunity for them to connect with our 4 construction managers as well as our project managers to find out more about information on forthcoming projects. We did have an interest to see how many visits that is receiving, and so we put a counter on it. And I visited the counter yesterday, and it's getting some visits. It was reflecting 35 visits as of yesterday. The other information that's out there is the information for the clock, the Citizen-Led Oversight Committee. Last time we met with the clock, actually it was time before last, because we had a meeting last week with them as well. They were interested in finding out how much visitation their information was receiving, and the district tracked down that information. And the most views occurred back on April 13th, with a total of 19 page views occurring that day. But on a day-to-day basis, we consistently are seeing an average of 2 to 3 visits per day. The other thing that I want to update is that for all of our construction projects, as we continue to commence and go through this whole program, we will be posting the progress photos on a monthly basis, as well as the construction videos. The construction videos that we began this presentation with this evening, those are online as well, and they will stay up for the tenure of the program, so that those that may be interested to sort of watch the natural progression of the addition at one of those projects, you can begin back earlier this year and see as the building comes out of the ground and the progress that's being made. The other thing that I wanted to address is follow up to the last time we met. The last time we had this meeting was March 11th. Boy, time flies. One of the things that the committee had requested was detailed information related to the overall MWBE participation on our program. I have communicated it was early April with all 4 of our construction managers that as we move forward with approvals of our GMP amendments, we are looking for them to provide project level summaries for all of the MWBE participation, listing not only the firm names, but what are the scopes that they're doing? What's their dollar amounts? What's the percentage does that look like? And we are also interested to find out which of those firms may have also attended our earlier event that was held with the Black Chamber of Commerce. We want to see how productive that was. But all 4 CMs know that that is a requirement, and they will be assembling that information once they have confirmed the vendors for each of the various bid packages. And I will remind the committee members that with this type of delivery method, which is construction management at risk, it does allow us to approve contracts based on a guaranteed maximum price, where perhaps the contractor has not bought out all of the packages yet, but when he has encountered items such as that, we utilize an allowance for that scope, and that allowance is based on the construction manager's estimate as well as that of the architect, so that we feel that the GMP that the contractor will be providing is truly a guaranteed maximum price. The last thing that I want to touch on is you saw the use of the traffic lights earlier. We will be rolling that out on the rest of the project web pages as well, so that at a glance we can look at these and quickly identify when we see a yellow light. Hey, if you're interested for more detail, click on it. You'll have an explanation. We'll list what corrective actions we are taking, so that all folks are well informed. And that takes us to the board agenda items that we'll be bringing May 19th. There'll be those summer 2020 guaranteed maximum price GMP amendments that I spoke of. And the other items that will come are architectural contract awards. Our request for qualifications have concluded. The committee's met, interviews have taken place, and the highest ranked firms for doing design services at Battery Creek High School and Robert Smalls International Academy, that's the replacement school, will be brought to that board meeting with a recommendation to award contracts to those two firms. And that concludes my update. I'll be glad to take any additional questions the committee or chair may have.
William, will you make sure that these things get on that agenda? Oh, no, we've already done the agenda for the 19th, right?
Yeah,
Those are, that is on the, those are already on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions, Will?
In relation to the Battery Creek High School replacement, I mean, the early Robert Smalls International Academy replacement, could you rewind that back? You said that at that time we will do, what will we be doing with those two again now?
You'll be approving the recommendation to award design contracts to two different firms.
Okay. So those are executive session pieces, Robin?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understand what we're saying and that I'm aware of it. All right, thank you.
Okay. John?
No questions.
No
Mr.
question?
Campbell has a question.
Go ahead. Mr. Campbell? Earl?
Yeah, this is for Robert. Can you hear me, Robert?
Yes, go ahead.
What about James A. Davis, the roof? When is that going to be started working on it?
I believe, oh, is that what was that in our last package? I believe it just got approved, so that's for next summer. That was in the, what the board just approved.
Mm-hmm.
That's next summer's work.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right. All right. Anything else? Thank you. One suggestion I would make when we put that set on the website, could you define the green light, yellow light, red light thing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right, that'd be awesome.
So people know what those mean.
Also, well, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll put that on the future topics, that's fine.
Okay. Do we need a motion on this?
What's that? Future
This is
topics?
just an update, right? We want to bring it to the board?
Yeah, sure. I'll make a motion that we bring this update to the board, to the full board.
Second.
Okay, that's 3-0 then, Robin.
Yeah,
That's the way we normally do it, right, Robert?
yes, I mean, it'll be part of your operations report.
Okay.
We don't have an agenda item right now for this, but you're more than welcome to include that in your operations and to whatever level you would like us. If you want us to go through this whole presentation or summarize, or to what level would you like it given to the full board?
I think this is an excellent presentation. I think it
it
shows the level of detail that you're tracking. So my opinion personally would be, I'd like to have the full board see this, and maybe in the future they might just be interested in the red lights, but or the traffic lights rather. But I think this would be good. Although we could say just go out on the website and you can see it, but I think a push is better than asking for a pull on that. So that's my opinion. Will?
I agree. I think that the full presentation that was done tonight that presentation didn't take too long. It was great. It was straight to the point. I think the full presentation will be the much necessary, and that way the taxpayers know exactly where their money is going at, and there's no questions. That's a great bit of transparency.
Okay.
Job well done.
Okay, John?
Absolutely.
Okay, then let's plan on doing the full presentation.
Yes, sir.
You know, when you got something good, you need to flaunt it.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
All right, thank you. The next thing on our agenda is any future agenda topics.
There was a couple things that I was waiting to possibly come to us. The report about the report from HR. I'm not sure if Dr. Rodriguez said that Ms. Walton would be working on it. I was wondering when will that come back to us? About transparency about district level staff issues.
District levels. I'm not familiar with the district level staff issue.
Grievances.
I believe the last time we spoke about it, I told you that I was going to be working on it. And I am still in the process. Of course, the COVID-19 stopped us because we need to work with an outside agency. So that's where we are. In the meantime, the grievance policy is still in place and it is still functioning. We have no staff at school.
All right.
Okay, well, this is just future topics. We don't want to discuss them right now.
Right. And then also the atrium at Beaufort High School lights. Just to see where we are with those. I've been informed that that there's been a work order. There's been a work order. There's been a question around it, and that's something that needs to. I need some answers. I need some answers for my constituents. I've had several people who've asked me about that. The PAC building.
I don't know if that needs to be a future agenda item, but I'll be glad to look into that and report back to you on the status of that work order.
Oh,
all right.
Well, actually, if it's a future agenda topic, then we will all be abreast in that way. No one will forget anything. So that's why I prefer it to be a future topic.
That'll be fine. Hopefully by that time, unless there's another issue, we'll report that it's been taken care of. But it's Beaufort High School atrium lights is what you're.
The PAC. That obviously there's some lights and some
the PAC
that need to be fixing it that are possibly dangerous.
Okay, the PAC's a different situation. I am aware of that. I'll be glad to report to you about that at the next meeting. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else, Will?
No, sir.
Okay,
not
John. John.
I have none. I have none.
I have none either.
Also, I'd like an update on where we are with the minority contracts. What's the percentage? If there's any movement or if there's no movement, whether we reached out to minorities, who we reached to, an update on contracts. I would like that at the next meeting too as well.
Yes, sir. As Mr. Corbin reported in his report, once our contracts are finalized, we'll be able to tabulate all that and we'll be ready to report back at your next meeting. That'll be part of our construction update. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'll be glad to report any of the figures that we have received. And like I mentioned during my presentation, the construction managers know this is information that the community and the board members are very much interested in receiving.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. I think we're done. We have a move to adjourn.
Second.
So move, sir.
All right. That's unanimous.
Everyone stay safe, be healthy.
Thank
yes,
you.
Sir. Everyone stay safe.